Ever wondered what it takes to move an ocean? For centuries, humans have carved through mountains, deserts, and even continents, just to connect one body of water to another. These aren't rivers born of nature. They're colossal artificial waterways, built by pure determination and impossible engineering. Some are so massive they can fit entire cargo ships. Others cut straight through solid rock or deserts where no water should exist. Each one changed the world in its own way, shaping trade, power, and history itself. So get ready, because today we're diving into massive canals you won't believe actually exist. The Grand Canal, China. If you think canals are just shortcuts for ships, the Grand Canal of China will make you rethink everything. This isn't just the largest canal on Earth, it's also the oldest, and it quite literally rewrote the geography of an empire. Stretching an astonishing 1,776 kilometers, 1,104 miles, the Grand Canal links Beijing in the north to Hangzhou in the south, connecting China's two mighty rivers, the Yangtze and the Yellow River. Built more than 2,500 years ago, its construction began in the 5th century BCE and expanded over multiple dynasties, from the Sui to the Yuan and the Ming. The result? A waterway so vast it connected the country's political heart with its agricultural soul. At its peak, thousands of wooden barges sailed these waters daily, carrying grain, salt, silk, porcelain, and even troops. It became China's economic lifeline, feeding its people and fueling its rise as one of the world's first centralized superpowers. And while most ancient engineering wonders crumbled with time, this one didn't. Even today, the Grand Canal remains one of the busiest inland waterways on the planet, transporting over 100 million tons of cargo every year and connecting more than 35 major cities. It continues to drive trade worth hundreds of billions of dollars, proving that ancient design can still power a modern economy. The sheer ambition behind it is hard to imagine. Thousands of kilometers of hand-dug channels, locks and reservoirs that still function after 2 millennia. It's a living monument to human persistence, precision, and planning on a scale the world had never seen before. So when UNESCO named it a World Heritage Site in 2014, it wasn't just honoring a canal. It was recognizing one of the greatest engineering feats in human history, a man-made river that has never stopped flowing. The Suez Canal, Egypt. In the heart of Egypt's desert lies a line so thin, yet so powerful, it holds the weight of the global economy. The Suez Canal, a 193-kilometer, 120-mile waterway, connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea, linking Europe with Asia and cutting straight through one of the harshest landscapes on Earth. The dream of joining the two seas wasn't new. Pharaohs first tried to carve a similar route nearly 4,000 years ago, and the Persian king Darius the Great even completed an early version. But the modern Suez Canal was finally realized in 1869, built under the vision of Ferdinand de Lesseps, and in that moment, world trade changed forever. It erased the need to sail around the southern tip of Africa, a 7,000-kilometer detour, saving ships weeks of travel and millions in fuel. Unlike most major canals, the Suez has no locks because both seas sit at nearly the same level. It's a perfectly straight, sea-level passage, a man-made crack in the continent where giant ships glide across the desert horizon. Today, more than 20,000 vessels pass through the Suez Canal each year, carrying roughly 12% of all global trade. That's about 1 billion tons of cargo, from oil and gas to electronics and grain. Every hour it stays open, the world economy moves. But in March 2021, that flow suddenly stopped. A massive container ship, the Ever Given, became wedged sideways during a sandstorm, blocking the entire canal. For 6 agonizing days, hundreds of ships piled up at both ends, and global trade lost an estimated $9.6 billion every single day. Oil prices jumped, supply chains shattered. The world watched as tiny bulldozers tried to free a vessel longer than the Eiffel Tower. When the ship was finally freed, cheers erupted, but the incident revealed something unsettling: that a single accident in a single stretch of desert could halt the rhythm of global civilization. Since then, Egypt has deepened and widened sections of the canal, determined to prevent another global chokehold. And yet, the Suez remains what it has always been: a breathtaking feat of engineering and an ever-present reminder of how fragile our world's connections truly are. The Suez Canal is not just a waterway. It's the pulse of modern trade, the line that binds east and west. And the day it stopped, the world realized just how much of our future still depends on this narrow cut through the desert. The Panama Canal, Panama. It's one of the most famous shortcuts in the world, a 50-mile passage that changed global trade forever. The Panama Canal doesn't just connect two oceans, it connects civilizations, economies, and centuries of human ambition. For centuries, explorers dreamed of slicing through the narrow strip of land dividing the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. The Spanish imagined it in the 1500s. The French tried in the 1800s, led by Ferdinand de Lesseps, the same man behind the Suez Canal. But Panama was unforgiving. Relentless rain, deadly landslides, malaria, and yellow fever claimed the lives of over 25,000 workers. It was called the Graveyard of Engineers. Then, in 1914, under American leadership, the impossible became real. The Panama Canal opened, and the world suddenly became smaller. Cutting 82 kilometers, 51 miles across mountains, jungles, and lakes, the canal uses a series of 3 giant locks to lift ships 26 meters above sea level, then lower them back down, allowing vessels to cross a continent in just 8 to 10 hours instead of weeks. Before the canal, ships had to sail around the entire southern tip of South America, a detour of nearly 13,000 kilometers. Today, about 14,000 ships pass through it each year, carrying over 500 million tons of cargo, roughly 6% of all global maritime trade. The tolls alone generate billions of dollars annually, fueling Panama's economy and keeping the global shipping network alive. In 2016, the Panama Canal Expansion Project added new, larger Neo-Panamax locks, allowing ships over 360 meters long to cross, vessels that can carry more than 14,000 containers. But as the world saw with the Ever Given incident in the Suez Canal back in 2021, even a single ship can bring the planet's supply chain to its knees. For 6 days, one container ship wedged sideways in Egypt cost the world over $9 billion per day, and the same could easily happen here. In fact, recent droughts in Panama have already forced officials to limit ship transits, causing massive backlogs and delays worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The Panama Canal stands as a triumph of human engineering, and a reminder that our greatest achievements still depend on forces far beyond our control. It is the heartbeat of global trade, a narrow ribbon of water where two oceans meet and where the balance of the modern world still hangs. The Rhine-Main-Danube Canal, Europe. It's the canal that quietly united a continent. Stretching across the heart of Europe, the Rhine-Main-Danube Canal doesn't just connect rivers, it connects cultures, economies, and centuries of dreams. Completed in 1992, this engineering marvel links the North Sea to the Black Sea, forming a continuous 3,500-kilometer waterway that passes through 15 countries. From the port of Rotterdam in the Netherlands to Constanza in Romania, a ship can now cross the entire European continent without ever leaving the water. The idea wasn't new. Charlemagne himself envisioned a canal between the Rhine and the Danube as early as the 8th century. But the terrain was brutal: dense forests, rising hills, and shifting rivers. It would take over 1,000 years before modern engineering could finally make the dream real. The canal itself runs 171 kilometers, 106 miles, through southern Germany, connecting the main river, which flows into the Rhine, with the Danube. It climbs to a summit elevation of 406 meters above sea level, the highest point in the world ever navigated by large ships. To make this possible, engineers built 16 locks, some towering over 25 meters high, to lift and lower vessels across the Bavarian hills like an aquatic staircase. Today, thousands of barges and cruise ships travel the canal each year, carrying goods, grain, oil, and tourists alike. It has transformed Central Europe's rivers into a single connected trade network, helping move tens of millions of tons of cargo annually from the industrial ports of Germany to the agricultural plains of Eastern Europe. Beyond commerce, it has also become a symbol of European unity, a living waterway that literally joins the economies and people of East and West. It's not the longest, nor the oldest, but it may be one of the most strategically powerful canals on Earth, a feat that turned Europe's natural rivers into one vast continuous highway. The Rhine-Main-Danube Canal is proof that sometimes the greatest way to connect nations is through water. Volga-Don Canal, Russia. In the south of Russia lies a canal that changed the course of an empire, quite literally. The Volga-Don Canal connects the Volga River, which flows into the Caspian Sea, with the Don River, which leads to the Sea of Azov and eventually the Black Sea. This 101-kilometer-long, 63-mile waterway may not sound massive on paper, but what it represents is extraordinary. It's the bridge between Europe and Asia, giving landlocked Russia access to the world's oceans. The dream of linking the Volga and the Don isn't new. Tsarist engineers attempted it as far back as the 16th century, but the tools of the time just couldn't conquer the terrain. It wasn't until 1952, under the Soviet Union, that the canal was finally completed, with the help of over 900,000 workers, including many prisoners from Stalin's Gulag camps. The project became one of the Soviet Union's proudest achievements, and one of its most brutal undertakings. The canal includes 13 locks in total, 9 on the Volga slope to lift ships up, and 4 on the Don side to gently lower them back down. It climbs to an elevation of 88 meters, 289 feet, above sea level, and connects through 3 artificial reservoirs, Varvarovskoye, Bereslavskoye, and Karpovskoye. But its importance goes far beyond navigation. The Volga-Don Canal forms part of a vast unified deep water system linking 5 seas, the White, Baltic, Caspian, Azov, and Black Seas, through interconnected rivers and canals. That means a vessel in St. Petersburg can technically sail all the way to Iran without ever touching open ocean. Each year, the canal moves around 12 million tons of cargo, including oil, grain, coal, and construction materials. It's also a major strategic waterway for the Russian Navy, connecting fleets from the Caspian and Black Seas when needed. Today, the Volga-Don Canal remains a vital artery of Russian trade and defense, a Soviet-era dream that still flows strong through the veins of Eurasia. It's not the longest canal in the world, but it might just be one of the most geopolitically important ever built. White Sea-Baltic Canal, Russia. Deep in the cold, northern reaches of Russia lies a canal built through ice, forests, and unimaginable human suffering, the White Sea-Baltic Canal, or as the locals call it, the Belomor Canal. Stretching 227 kilometers, 141 miles, this canal connects the White Sea in the Arctic Ocean to Lake Onega, which then links to the Baltic Sea, creating a vital north-south route through Russia's inland waters. It's not just an engineering project, it's a story carved into stone, frost, and memory. Construction began in 1931 under Joseph Stalin's regime and was completed in a mere 20 months, an almost impossible feat for the era. But the cost? Catastrophic. The canal was built almost entirely by forced labor, with over 100,000 Gulag prisoners working under brutal Arctic conditions. Tens of thousands never made it out alive. When it opened in 1933, the White Sea-Baltic Canal became one of the Soviet Union's first great propaganda triumphs, proof, they claimed, that human will could conquer nature itself. But in truth, it was narrow, shallow, and plagued with design flaws. At only 3.5 meters, 11 feet deep, it was too shallow for most large ships, limiting it mostly to smaller cargo vessels, military boats, and tourist cruisers. Even so, the canal's significance can't be overstated. It forms part of the unified deep water system of European Russia, linking the Arctic Ocean to the Baltic, Black, and Caspian Seas, essentially connecting the country's naval and commercial fleets through a vast inland network. Today, the canal is more than just a trade route. It's a symbol, both of Soviet ambition and human endurance. Around 7 million tons of cargo still pass through its icy waters every year, alongside river cruises that trace the same paths once cut by prisoners nearly a century ago. It remains one of the world's most haunting waterways, a canal that doesn't just connect seas, but connects the past to the present, with every ripple whispering the story of those who built it. Kiel Canal, Germany. In northern Germany, there's a canal so vital that it literally cuts Europe's sailing time in half: the Kiel Canal, known locally as the Nord-Ostsee Canal. Stretching 98 kilometers, 61 miles, it connects the North Sea at Brunsbüttel with the Baltic Sea at Kiel-Holtenau, forming one of the busiest artificial waterways on the planet. Before it existed, ships traveling between the two seas had to make the long, dangerous journey around the Jutland Peninsula, adding almost 900 kilometers, 560 miles, to the trip. When the Kiel Canal opened in 1895, it was nothing short of a revolution for maritime trade. Suddenly, German naval vessels and commercial ships could move swiftly and safely between the two seas, a huge strategic advantage, especially during the First and Second World Wars. Originally built by the German Emperor Kaiser Wilhelm II, the canal was later expanded in 1914, just before the outbreak of World War I, to accommodate larger battleships. Today, it's a modern engineering masterpiece, constantly upgraded to handle massive vessels. Every year, more than 30,000 ships pass through it, carrying everything from cars and chemicals to food and fuel. That's more than the Suez and Panama Canals combined in terms of traffic volume, making it the busiest artificial waterway in the world. The Kiel Canal doesn't just save time, it saves money, fuel, and risk. By shortening routes and avoiding rough seas, it's estimated to save global shipping companies millions of dollars annually. And it remains a cornerstone of European trade, linking Scandinavia, the Baltic states, and Western Europe through one efficient artery of steel and water. From military strategy to modern commerce, the Kiel Canal has quietly shaped Europe's economy for over a century. It's proof that sometimes the most powerful routes in the world aren't the ones that span continents, but the ones that cleverly connect them. Danube-Black Sea Canal, Romania. In southeastern Europe, where the mighty Danube River makes its final journey toward the sea, lies one of the continent's most ambitious and controversial waterways, the Danube-Black Sea Canal in Romania. Stretching 64 kilometers, 40 miles, from Cernavodă on the Danube to Constanța on the Black Sea, this canal isn't just a shortcut, it's a statement. It cuts off a 400-kilometer detour that ships once had to take through the winding Danube Delta, making it one of the most important trade routes in Eastern Europe. But behind this engineering marvel lies a dark past. Construction first began in the early 1950s under the communist regime of Gheorghe Gheorghiu-Dej, with the dream of turning Romania into an industrial power. Yet, like many grand state projects of that era, it was built on suffering. Thousands of political prisoners and forced laborers were sent to the construction camps along the canal. For many, it became known grimly as the Canal of Death. Tens of thousands perished from exhaustion, disease, and brutal conditions before the project was abandoned in 1953. It wasn't until 1976, under Nicolae Ceausescu, that construction resumed, this time with modern machinery and a vision to transform Romania's maritime power. Finally completed in 1984, the Danube-Black Sea Canal became one of the largest earth-moving projects in Europe, involving over 300 million cubic meters of excavated soil. Today, it's fully operational, carrying over 50 million tons of cargo annually, mostly grain, coal, and minerals. The canal is lined with locks, ports, and industrial hubs that make it a vital link between Central Europe and the Black Sea, connecting landlocked countries like Austria, Hungary, and Serbia to global trade routes. But for all its modern efficiency, the canal remains haunted by the ghosts of its past, a place where ambition, oppression, and progress flow side by side. It stands as both a triumph of engineering and a monument to the heavy price of forced labor. A canal that didn't just reshape the land, it forever reshaped the lives of those who built it. Karakum Canal, Turkmenistan. In the heart of Central Asia, where the desert stretches endlessly under a blazing sun, lies a man-made river that defies nature itself, the Karakum Canal. Cutting across the vast Karakum Desert in Turkmenistan, this canal is one of the largest irrigation canals in the world, and easily one of the most ambitious human attempts to rewrite geography. Stretching an astonishing 1,375 kilometers, 854 miles, it carries water from the Amu Darya River, one of Central Asia's great waterways, all the way across one of the driest regions on Earth. Construction began in 1954, during the Soviet era, with the goal of transforming the barren desert into fertile farmland. And in many ways, it worked. The Karakum Canal brought water to cities like Ashgabat and Mary, turned miles of sand into cotton fields, and fueled the agricultural heart of Turkmenistan. Without it, much of the country as we know it today simply wouldn't exist. But this river through the desert came at a heavy cost. The canal loses up to 50% of its water through leakage and evaporation under the scorching heat, an enormous loss in a region where every drop counts. And perhaps most tragically, diverting so much water from the Amu Darya contributed to one of the worst ecological disasters of the 20th century, the shrinking of the Aral Sea. Once the fourth largest lake in the world, the Aral has almost completely vanished, leaving behind a toxic desert of salt and sand. Despite this, the Karakum Canal remains the lifeline of Turkmenistan, supplying over 90% of the country's water. From an engineering standpoint, it's still breathtaking, an artificial artery that carries life across an unforgiving wasteland. But it also serves as a reminder that every act of creation can carry destruction in its wake. It's a canal that didn't just reshape the desert, it changed the fate of an entire region, Saimaa Canal, Finland/Russia. At the northern edge of Europe, surrounded by lakes, forests, and misty horizons, lies a canal that quietly bridges two worlds, the Saimaa Canal. Stretching 43 kilometers, 27 miles, between Lake Saimaa in Finland and the Gulf of Finland in the Baltic Sea, this waterway is the lifeline of Finland's Lake District, a region so full of water that it's often called the land of 1,000 lakes. But what makes the Saimaa Canal truly unique isn't just its engineering, it's its location. The canal physically crosses the border between Finland and Russia, making it one of the few international waterways in the world that's partly leased from another country. In fact, about half of the canal's route lies on Russian territory, near Vyborg, land that Finland lost after World War II. Since 1963, Finland has leased that section from Russia under a long-term agreement, paying rent to keep its access to the Baltic Sea open. Originally built in the 1850s during the era of the Russian Empire, the Saimaa Canal was a monumental project of its time, a gateway that connected inland Finland to the open sea, boosting trade and transforming isolated towns into thriving ports. It was modernized and reopened in 1968, with 8 locks designed to handle large cargo ships and passenger vessels. Today, the canal carries more than 1.5 million tons of cargo annually, mainly timber, pulp, and minerals, essential to Finland's export economy. During summer, it's also a scenic route for cruise ships and private boats, weaving through lakes, bridges, and lush green forests. But it's more than just a trade route. It's a delicate thread of diplomacy. Every passage through the canal depends on the cooperation between two nations with a complicated history. And in recent years, tensions have occasionally put that connection to the test, proving that the Saimaa Canal isn't just a feat of engineering, but a symbol of balance between geography, politics, and survival. It's a canal that connects not just waters, but histories, nations, and the fragile peace that flows between them. Corinth Canal, Greece. In southern Greece, where the ancient world once dreamed of joining two seas, lies one of the most breathtaking and perilous canals on Earth, the Corinth Canal. Carved straight through solid limestone, this narrow passage slices across the Isthmus of Corinth, connecting the Aegean Sea with the Ionian Sea. It may be just 6.4 kilometers, 4 miles long, but few canals have a story as old or as dramatic. For over 2,000 years, rulers and conquerors dreamed of cutting through this narrow strip of land. The idea dates all the way back to the 6th century BCE, when Periander, the tyrant of Corinth, first conceived it. Even Julius Caesar and Nero tried to begin construction. Nero famously struck the first blow himself, using a golden pickaxe, but all these early attempts failed. It wasn't until 1893 that the modern Corinth Canal was finally completed, after years of grueling excavation through rock as high as 80 meters, 260 feet. When it opened, it was hailed as one of the greatest engineering achievements of its age, a shortcut that saved ships the 700-kilometer detour around the Peloponnesian Peninsula. But the Corinth Canal is not for the faint of heart. At only 21 meters, 70 feet wide at its base, it's far too narrow for most modern ships. Only small cruise vessels, private yachts, and smaller cargo ships can make the passage. And even then, every transit is a tight squeeze, guided carefully by tugboats. The steep, towering cliffs make it one of the most visually spectacular canals in the world, but also one of the most dangerous. Over the years, landslides have repeatedly shut it down. The most recent major closure occurred in 2021, when massive rockfalls blocked the canal for months. Yet, each time, Greece restores it, not just for commerce, but for pride. Because the Corinth Canal isn't just a waterway, it's the realization of an ancient dream that defied time, empires, and geology itself. It's a place where myth meets engineering, and where a vision from the ancient world still slices through the heart of modern Greece. Houston Ship Channel, USA. Deep in the Gulf Coast of Texas lies one of the most powerful arteries of global trade, the Houston Ship Channel. Stretching 85 kilometers, 53 miles inland from the Gulf of Mexico to the heart of Houston, this man-made waterway transformed a sleepy inland town into one of the busiest port cities in the world. At first glance, it might not seem as glamorous as the Suez or the Panama. But in terms of economic impact, the Houston Ship Channel is a titan. It's the lifeline of the Port of Houston, which handles more than 285 million tons of cargo every year, making it one of the top 5 busiest ports in the world by tonnage and the number 1 in the United States for foreign waterborne tonnage. The canal's story began in the late 19th century when local entrepreneurs and the US Army Corps of Engineers decided to dredge and deepen the Buffalo Bayou. By 1914, the channel officially opened, with President Woodrow Wilson pressing a telegraph button from Washington, D.C. to fire the ceremonial cannon in Houston, marking the city's entry into global maritime trade. But the real growth came later, when oil was discovered in Texas. Suddenly, the canal became the beating heart of America's petrochemical industry. Massive tankers, freighters, and barges now move day and night through its waters, carrying crude oil, gasoline, plastics, and chemicals that power economies across the world. To keep pace with modern megaships, the US government launched the Project 11 expansion, widening and deepening the channel to up to 170 meters, 550 feet, ensuring Houston remains competitive for decades to come. It's not all commerce, though. The channel is also home to one of the most complex networks of refineries, pipelines, and ports on Earth, a symbol of how human engineering can completely reshape geography and economy. What began as a muddy bayou carved by hand over a century ago has become a superhighway of steel and oil, proving that sometimes the most powerful canals aren't built to connect oceans, but to connect a city's ambition to the world. Erie Canal, USA. Long before the skyscrapers and highways, there was a canal that built America. Cutting through the wild heart of 19th century New York, the Erie Canal was the engineering marvel that connected the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean, and in doing so, changed the destiny of a nation. Stretching 584 kilometers, 363 miles, from Albany on the Hudson River to Buffalo on Lake Erie, the canal opened in 1825 after 8 grueling years of digging, most of it by hand. At the time, skeptics called it Clinton's Ditch, mocking New York Governor DeWitt Clinton's ambitious plan to carve a waterway across forests, swamps, and rocky terrain. But when it was completed, the Erie Canal instantly silenced every critic. It turned New York City into America's gateway to the West. For the first time, goods from the Great Lakes could reach the Atlantic cheaply and quickly, slashing transport costs by over 90%. Grain, timber, and iron flowed east, manufactured goods flowed west, and entire towns sprang up along its banks almost overnight. Within just a few years, the canal was carrying more freight than any other waterway in the world. The economic impact was staggering. It helped make New York the richest state in the young United States, fueled westward expansion, and inspired a nationwide canal boom that laid the foundation for modern American infrastructure. Even today, the Erie Canal remains operational, a national historic landmark used by barges, tourists, and recreational boats. Its 34 locks and scenic waterways attract thousands of visitors each year who trace the same route that once carried pioneers, dreamers, and fortunes. More than just a waterway, The Erie Canal was the spark of the American Industrial Revolution. Proof that ambition, muscle, and vision could move mountains, or in this case, dig through them. It didn't just connect lakes to the ocean, it connected the young nation's heart to its future. Dubai Water Canal, UAE. In a city where everything seems possible, where deserts become skylines and islands rise from the sea, even the water flows by design. Welcome to the Dubai Water Canal, one of the newest and most stunning artificial waterways in the world. Stretching 3.2 kilometers, 2 miles, through the heart of Dubai, this canal connects the Dubai Creek in Old Town to the Arabian Gulf, cutting right through the city's glittering downtown. But this isn't just a canal. It's an urban masterpiece, blending luxury, architecture, and engineering in a way that only Dubai could imagine. The project, completed in 2016, reshaped the city's landscape. Entire districts were redesigned to accommodate the canal's winding path, including the creation of 3 pedestrian bridges, artificial waterfalls, and waterfront promenades lined with parks, marinas, and restaurants. The canal itself is 80 to 120 meters wide and up to 6 meters deep, allowing yachts and small cruise vessels to glide straight through the city center, beneath some of Dubai's most famous landmarks. What makes it remarkable isn't its size, but its vision. The canal effectively turned part of downtown Dubai into an artificial island, surrounding areas like Business Bay with water and transforming the city's layout forever. It's also a triumph of urban planning, equipped with automated locks, flood control systems, and an integrated pedestrian network that redefines what a canal city can be in the 21st century. And of course, in true Dubai fashion, it's more than infrastructure. It's a spectacle. At night, the canal glows with light shows and reflections from nearby skyscrapers, making it one of the most photographed spots in the Middle East. The Dubai Water Canal may not carry massive cargo ships or link continents, but it carries something just as powerful: the idea that imagination itself can shape the earth. It's a canal that doesn't just move water, it moves boundaries, turning a desert city into a living, flowing work of art. Bangkok Klongs, Thailand. Before Bangkok became a city of skyscrapers, traffic, and neon lights, it was a city of water. A place where life didn't move on roads. It floated. The Bangkok Klongs, a vast network of canals snaking through the Thai capital, once earned the city its famous nickname, the Venice of the East. The word klong literally means canal, and for centuries these waterways were the lifeblood of Bangkok, serving as roads, markets, and living spaces all in one. At their peak, there were over 1,600 kilometers, 1,000 miles, of klongs crisscrossing the city. They connected homes, temples, and trading posts, carrying everything from rice and spices to monks on morning alms rounds. In the 19th century, long-tail boats glided through these waters instead of cars, and the sound of oars splashing against wooden houses was the rhythm of daily life. But as Bangkok modernized, many of these canals were filled in to make way for roads. Still, the spirit of the old floating city survives, especially along the Thonburi side of the Chao Phraya River, where hundreds of klongs remain active. Here, you can still see floating markets, stilt houses, and families traveling by narrow boats just as they did generations ago. The main canals, such as Klong Bangkok Noi and Klong Bangkok Yai, serve not only as transport routes but also as cultural archives, preserving a slower, more traditional way of life amid the city's chaos. And when the monsoon rains come, these klongs become vital flood channels, protecting the city from being overwhelmed. Today, only 9 primary klongs serve as major drainage and transport routes, but efforts are underway to revive and clean them, blending the old charm with modern sustainability. Because in Bangkok, the water never truly disappears, it just finds a new path. So while the klongs may no longer carry merchant ships or global cargo, they carry something far more precious: the soul of a city that grew from water and still listens to its gentle flow. That's all for today. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more fascinating videos, don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an adventure into the unknown.